There's Bob Beeler.
How are you doing, Rick?
Hey, Bob. I'm good. What you know, buddy?
Not much. Big Ten is now joining the fray.
Okay. Well, I guess we saw some stuff coming, huh?
Yeah.
How you been? I haven't seen you for a while.
I've been all right. Glad to be back to work.
Right on.
Yourself?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Joe.
I think there's going to be a couple outlets streaming this, so what I'll probably do is mute everybody until we get started, and we can go from there.
You don't want to talk? What's the problem, Joe? You don't want to just hang out?
Oh, there you are. I actually switched it over to my headphones.
%. Right now could be a great time for you to take some positive financial steps.
We'll do a sound check for KTIK. Either shoot me a text, JP, or give me a thumbs up here on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it. Thanks. The medical doctors and stuff came in. And all right, I think we've got close to everybody here. I will. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I will, for everybody listening, TV specifically, I will be recording this. If you need the video file, please shoot me a note. There are several of you on here, so I'm going to open it up with Coach. He can make his statement first, and then I'm going to go Jay Tust, Ron Counts, BJ Rains. If anybody additionally would like to ask a question, please shoot me a message in the chat. So thanks for joining us for today's press conference with Coach Harsin. I'm going to turn it over to him, start recording. Coach, go ahead and fire away.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Well, good afternoon. Good to see you. Obviously, just start with the news from yesterday and what we found out about just our conference and the postponement. We got that information yesterday about 3:35 and had a staff meeting around 3:40, right around there. We tried to get a Teamworks, which is how we communicate with our players, out at about 3:50 and had a Zoom meeting at 4:15 with our players. So roughly around that timeline, and wanted to let them know what was happening before the actual news came out. Obviously disappointed. These guys have been working extremely hard. They've been preparing. Coaches have been preparing really since June, when we had a chance to get back in here a little bit in the office and then start to get some of the workouts going in June. We had that pause where we had a few weeks off, and then we're able to get back in July. The summer access began, and I thought the players did a tremendous job of preparing themselves and still have. I think our coaches have done a great job of being prepared with what we've been able to do. Some of the walkthroughs, we've been able to utilize that time to get a little bit of football in and do some of the things that we weren't able to do in the spring. So it felt like we were making progress, still had our challenges, obviously figuring out, all right, how do we prepare? How do we actually get out there and practice? I never was really concerned about the games at that point. It was more about the preparation. How do we do it properly? Because to prepare for football, you've got to go out there and practice a certain way. And, just under the guidelines right now, we didn't feel like we were able to do that. And then things got pushed back. So August 7th, we were all preparing to start. August 7th, found out the season would be pushed back. And so we adjusted our camp because we feel like the normal model of 29 days and 25 practices is what we need to prepare to go out there and play. So we had adjusted our start time to August 21st. And then we got this news yesterday. And, I know for all the players and all the coaches, it's disappointing. You start to prepare yourself. You have a purpose, even though it was changing. It wasn't set in stone. There was always a possibility of this happening. I think everybody was aware of that. And so when it did, we addressed the team and gave them the information that we received. A lot of it comes down to, at the end of the day, guys, the physical and mental health and well-being of our student athletes and everyone associated in the athletic program. That's where a lot of the vote really fell, was on that information there, and how do we do this the right way. And so we talked with our players today, and we had plans this week to finish out what we were doing. Felt like after talking to the players today, and we got a lot of great seniors that I think are tremendous leaders on this team, that we would take today and just kind of let it all set in and digest this a little bit. And then the goal is to finish out the rest of this week and finish, and then really start getting these guys prepared for classes August 24th. All right. And how that's going to look, but making sure that the academic side of things, we're ready for that. We're prepared for these guys to get back into classes or virtual classes, however their schedule is set up, and making sure that they're successful and we have a great start to the academic year. And then we'll take some time. The guys have been working now. The guys that have been here, and there hasn't been everybody here every single day, but the guys that have been here, guys that have been working out, guys that have been putting in the time, they've done a tremendous job. And our strength staff, they've done a great job preparing our guys this summer and conditioning and getting them ready for fall camp and ready for a season, which was always the plan. All right. And, hopefully this week we can finish, so we can finish something, and then we'll give the players some time off. We'll regroup. All right. We'll get the next plan once more information comes out. What does it actually mean in the fall? All right. What does the postponement mean? There'll be more information, I'm sure, over the next several weeks, not just from our conference, but other conferences. As we're seeing right now, I think the Big Ten is making the same decision that we made in the Mountain West. And so we obviously got to regroup. And the easy part is, what do? We start preparing again, but what for when and what's that timeline? All right. That's how we're going to have to make our adjustments based off the training. And I'll just say this, as a staff, we've been able to adjust. And I think that the most difficult thing when you're talking about player and player safety, and not just with COVID, but all the other things that come along with playing college football. All right. Everything that comes along with that. All right. And what it takes and the demands to play the game. We know what that looks like. Our players know what that looks like. And, in order for us to do it the right way, we're going to need that plan. We're going to need, what it looks like, and maybe what that schedule might be going into, if it's spring or whenever they decide we feel like we can start. But at the end of the day, we've got to be able to do things safely, and we got to be able to do things the right way in order to prepare correctly. And, we've been on numerous calls weekly with Mountain West coaches. We've had a chance to talk with some of the medical folks in the Mountain West. We've had a chance to do those things. And, so there's been a lot of conversations. And I would say this, every coach that's on those calls and everybody that's been there, they want to play. They want to have a season, and they want to be successful. And you got some teams that had guys on campus, and you had some teams that had guys on campus and actually working out. And you had some teams in our league that had nobody on campus. And at the end of the day, we all felt like it was important for everybody to have that opportunity to prepare themselves, to do it the right way. So then when we do start, all right, everybody begins at whatever date, that 26th, that was the set time, that we all have a shot to go out there and be competitive, and more importantly, to be safe and to do this thing the right way. So, right now it's, we're taking it all in. This has never happened before. So we'll continue to work with our guys, and we'll get these guys set up to be successful. And I think the hard part is just the purpose. When you're an 18 to 22-year-old and you play college football, and this is a big part of your life, and even for coaches too, not just players, but you have that purpose. You have something to look forward to. You're preparing for something, and as we've talked about as a team, every year we have a schedule. We know when this is happening. We know when spring ball happens. We know how many practices. We know when summer workouts begin. We know what they look like, feel like, and then we get better at that. But we know what's in front of us, and we know what to expect. And right now, the uncertainty is what really, I think causes more of the issues, is just, all right, what is next? And that takes a tremendous amount of discipline, all right, for every one of us to stay focused. A lot of true mental toughness, all right, just to keep yourself prepared and ready. But I do think our guys have a lot of guys have a positive outlook on it. Hey, we'll train, we'll get better, we'll figure out what this looks like. And then our seniors obviously have, a different perspective. What's this look like for our seniors? And, certainly those guys right now, we want to make sure that when we do find out what the plan is moving forward, all right, how does that affect our football team? How does that affect our seniors? And then, how does that affect us, once we get into school and we got to prepare possibly through a fall camp while we're in school, which we never really do, if we're going to play in the later fall or the spring. So, it's been challenging. Every day the focus has been just how do we go 1-0? How do we stay focused on that particular day? Because we know how this thing has shifted in 24 hours quite a bit throughout this time. But I've been proud of our staff and proud of our players. And right now we're gonna see how this week goes. I told our guys today this is going to be a crazy week in college football, and to just be ready for that, not just for the Mountain West, but for a lot of the other leagues. We're going to see a lot of things happen this week. We're going to get a lot more clarity on what that looks like moving into maybe camp for some teams or maybe cancellation for everybody. So we don't know the answers to that, but our goal right now is to take some time today and digest everything. Let's finish out this week and then get our guys prepared for school August 24th. So with that, open up for questions.
All right, we'll start with Jay Tust, KTVB, and then we'll have Ron Counts from the Idaho Statesman.
Bryan, you mentioned that you guys might be sending players home here in the near future. I talked with another coach in another conference last week, and he said with their testing procedures, they almost felt like their players were safer on campus with them than they would be going to a grocery store. It's kind of a hypothetical. What's your level of concern about your guys leaving campus? Are you confident, or do you feel like they would be safer with the protocols that you guys have had, been going through every day?
Well, I misspoke if I said we're going to send players home. We're going to give them time off, going. So that's one thing. We've been working out for. It's going to be 7 weeks going on 8 weeks straight. So they naturally think about spring, and this is how I look at it. In spring, when spring ball finishes, they get about 3 weeks off. They get to go home in May, and then they come back in June. They need that time. We've been training. The body has to recover. Just mentally you need to recover from the work you've been doing, and then get yourself feeling better, and then come back and we begin our summer training is how we usually do that in the spring. So that's the idea behind that. If they go home, they're going to be back for school. We know that. So if they use that time to go home or they do other things, that's really going to be up to them at this point. As far as how do I feel about them being in the facility, I feel like this is the best place for these guys to be. If you're going to work out and train, then we want them to do it here at Boise State. We come in, we have our protocols, we fill out the information every day. I think our trainers have done a great job of staying on top of that. Certainly, we get information every week, and there might be a tweak here and there. And our players done a great job of adjusting the way that we need to. And I think our guys have taken this very serious as far as getting themselves ready to go each and every day. So, doing what they have to do the night before and trying to be smart. But as far as being here, and I think being around their teammates, being around the coaches, having the opportunity to be in a facility where, we're cleaning it, we're doing the best we can to make sure that it's safe. It's a great environment for guys that they can train and they can feel comfortable here. And, we can do things nutrition wise here in the facility that we can't do other places. So that also helps in their conditioning rather than just being out and going wherever to train. So it's still, regardless of whether we're playing right away, the chemistry of the football team, the culture of the football team, that still matters.
Mhm.
Still important that that continues to be developed. Unfortunately, we don't get to go compete. But the competition piece also has to be a big factor. So when we come back, there's going to be some internal competitions. We need to have some fun. We need to enjoy what we're doing. And we need to build those relationships amongst the team like we always do. And right now, even more so, in my opinion. It needs to be even better. But I do think guys being here, and certainly, I feel like when I see them every day, the guys that are in this facility, you're able to give them a fist bump and say hi to them and look them in the eye. I think that matters. And I think they do appreciate that. And I think they appreciate, that we're trying to make sure that we're doing things that are safe for our players and doing the best we can to take care of them. And I think they enjoy coming in here. There's still a lot of energy in this facility. All right. I wouldn't say anybody walks around here all mopey. They come in here, they get their work in. Coach Pittman and the strength staff does a great job. And, we got guys that are hitting numbers that are better than what they were hitting in the spring. So they're seeing now the progress of their strength, their development, and they know they're getting stronger, and that's a positive. They're seeing the results, and they know, that's one of the things too, as you start to build. This is why you want to go out there and get on the football field and use that strength and that development that you've been putting all this time in to go out there and compete. And right now we're not going to get a chance to do that. So we'll get creative. We're going to have some fun, but I really do feel like guys being in this facility and being around their teammates and coaches, it's a positive vibe. We enjoy it, and I think it's a really good environment for them to be in.
I know that you've had less than 24 hours to process the idea of playing football in the spring, but each and every spring we see how many guys are kind of on the mend, gearing up for, during the springtime from the previous fall, essentially playing 2 seasons, maybe in a 10-month stretch in 2021. Do you see concerns there, or is that just something that you'll have to deal with?
Well, I don't know, Jay. I haven't spent a whole lot of time. Well, one, I don't know the exact model of number of games in the spring. All right. And then what's the time between, all right, when you would go out and compete again? And, the reality of it is, if that's the setup, I think there's an adjustment on the other end of the new season, right? That might be a little bit later. And I could see this being a 2-year cycle where if you did end sometime in May, well, a lot of times, right, we're right into camps, we're right into recruiting, we're getting players on campus. And then, is that August the right start time? Maybe it's September. Maybe there's a little bit more time in between, because I do think the model of the way college football is set up right now, when you finish that season in December or January, you have your 7-8 weeks. All right. When you come back after having a couple-week break, you come back, you start to lift, you start to condition, you start to prepare. You got 15 practices, all right, which are not always back-to-back. And then you have the time from when practice is in, you got a couple weeks, all right, to recover. School is finishing up. Then you got 3 weeks to go home, relax, do whatever it is you have to do, get your mind right, recoup, and then come back in June and begin your training. And then fall camp starts sometime in August, and I think that model, that recovery time, is crucial. So, if that does happen, there's got to be a built-in time, and I don't know what that is right now, but there's got to be a built-in time for the recovery and for these guys to get themselves, again, reconditioned to go back out there and play another season.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Bryan. I'll wait till we wrap back around.
Ron Counts, the Idaho Statesman, and then BJ Rains with the Idaho Press.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. So yesterday when the announcement came out, we saw a lot of players reacting on Twitter. I'm curious, during your Zoom meeting, what was the players' reaction to the announcement?
Well, Ron, you can see, like, I'm looking at you right now. Nobody, I didn't see anybody on there, just dropping their head and all that. I think I had talked to the seniors earlier that morning. I wanted to just see where we were. And this wasn't necessarily geared towards the postponement of our season. I didn't know it at that time. It was more about, guys, how we doing, checking in, all right, talking about the realities of if a season did get postponed. All right, we would have a plan, and that's something that, we'll have to discuss if it happens. Well, then later that day it happened. But I thought that the players, they got the teamworks maybe around 3:50. They're all on the Zoom call at 4:15. And our guys lock in. That's the one thing. I think they're able to lock in. They're able to listen. I think when I actually told them the news, they're disappointed. But they paid attention to the rest of what was said and told these guys, we need to be here tomorrow, the next day. So today, we need to be here. We need to share some more things that we learn, all right, throughout the rest of that day from yesterday. And we were able to do that. Everybody was here. We were able to communicate with them. And then also, it's important for our team too. All right, what are their thoughts on this? And I think that's one of the things in our program. Sometimes it's not always that way. Sometimes you're just going, right? When you're in the middle of a season, you got to just go. It's a Tuesday practice. Hey, everybody's on the same page. We know what the plan is, but right now we're in unprecedented times. It's not like that. So there was the ability to have some thoughts and some voices heard. And I think it's a lot to take in. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say that, they were all good with it and, hey, let's just move on and get ready for whatever's next. I think it's disappointing. I think there's a lot of what ifs. And, one of the things about this decision in all these conversations we've had the last several months, a big part of that was we need answers. We need answers. We need answers. Well, we got an answer. And just because we disagree with it and don't like it, we still got one. And at least we got one. All right. So here's where we are now. And I think some of that does help for at least the staff and the players to say, at least we have an answer right now. What does that all mean moving forward? We don't know that yet. All right. We'll figure that out as we go. So we kind of get back into that cycle. But for right now, we have an answer, and it's not what we wanted. It's not what we wanted to hear. Not one guy on this team, in this staff wanted to hear that whatsoever. But you know what? That's part of when you get information like this, you share it. All right. Be open and honest about it. This is what it is. And then, let everybody kind of process it their own way. That's just how you do it. Because there's really no one way to process this. There's not like a Boise State way of how we're going to process it. Every single guy has to take a minute and just figure out, all right, how does this apply to me? And then what do we as a team do moving forward?
We saw last week that several Mountain West players sent a letter with concerns over COVID-19 and some of the safety protocols. Did any players approach you with those concerns or about opting out of the season?
No, we didn't have any opting out conversations. The concern piece, we've talked about this a long time ago. I think at the end of the day, all right, I know there's more to, what the Mountain West had or what other conferences had on that, some of the concerns. But I think at the end of the day, primarily for our players is, we do want to play. We just want to do it safely. And we also want to know that, all right, if we get started, we don't want to stop. If we get started and, we're out for 3-4 weeks, is that going to be my season? Would that end it for me? Would I end up being, part of a season where you play 10 games, but I miss 5 of them, and that's just what it is? And I think, and those are legitimate concerns. I think everything on there is a legitimate concern that needs to be answered. And I think that's something that, I would want the same answers. And I want the same answers because if we're going to go out there and get started and we lose, not because of injury, but if we lose, some of our players because of COVID or the contact tracing or anything like that, or something happens with another team, well, does that mean that, they're not able to play? And to me, those are the uncertainties that, those questions were brought up by our players. I thought they were ahead of this. We had internal conversations about it, not with every single guy, not with the entire team, but some one-on-one conversations from some of our leaders that expressed, hey, these are some of the things that we're concerned about. And I think that was just, that statement came from probably a lot of conversations, not just Boise State, but a lot of other programs in the country were probably having the same ones. And players felt like, hey, let's put this down. Let's make sure that before we get into this season, these things are able to be answered. And right now, under the circumstances, they're not completely. You know, we're still not there. We're not there to be able to say, you know, you could be right back here in 2 or 3 days, or you wouldn't miss 3 weeks because of COVID. But nobody else, you know, I think our guys are very mature about it. I think they're very thoughtful. I think they've been on top of it. They've obviously paid attention to it. You know, they didn't just blow this off and it's not a concern. I think they've taken all of this very seriously. And those are real questions that need to be answered. And so, you know, when I saw that, I didn't think there's anything on there that, you know, shouldn't be answered. All right. I mean, we should be able to answer those questions, because for me, I want those same answers before we get started, so we know exactly what we're getting into.
So given those concerns and the travel involved, in your opinion, could you guys have created a bubble to keep these guys safe enough to play a 10-game season this fall?
Yeah, the bubble, will define bubble, right? I mean, I think right now there's no students on campus, right? Very few. All right. We're able to come into our facility. We're able to work out. We're able to have really just the football team here, right? The coaches and the players. And so that's probably as much of a bubble as we can create right now. But as far as, you know, is there like the bubble of, are we going to go get a hotel room and everybody lives in the hotel room and we just go to class and shuttle back and forth and go to practice? No, you know, that's not going to happen. You know, and not just with Boise State, that's not going to happen anywhere. And so I think the model, you know, the NBA model and some of these other models, they're just, you know, they're set up for those teams. They're set up that way. And I think they're able to do it. But as far as, you know, do we feel like we could do that? We kind of have it right now the best we can at this point. But then that's going to change. You know, there's going to be, you know, other people around on campus, and there's going to be more activity. And, you know, that was never really something that we were trying to accomplish, of creating this bubble, other than just, you know, hey, we got to be smart about what we do. We got to take care of each other. You know, we know the things that we should avoid that will help us stay healthy, and doing the right things when we're away from the facility, doing the right things when we're in the facility and trying to do that. And so, no, that wasn't really ever part of, nor was it a part of any of our conversations, you know, with the coaches in the Mountain West either. I think that's just, you know, not really realistic.
BJ Rains from the Idaho Press, followed by Bob Beeler with KTIK.
Kind of following off that, Brian, I mean, just the system you had in place, the testing protocols, you know, the temperature checks, all the stuff you guys were planning on doing. Do you think you could have survived it? You know, forget the bubble and stuff, but just what you were planning on doing. Do you think it could have worked? I mean, do you think you guys could have been able to play a season this fall?
I do. However, all those things would have to improve. All right. It's really the speed. It's the speed of the information. And a lot of it has to do with testing. And that's been, I don't just think with us, I think that's been the question, you know, around the country is, you know, I think there's the symptoms. I think there's those things that come into play. But as far as the actual playing piece, you know, there was a model of 72 hours, you know, to test before you played. So in theory, if you went on the field, and this is the officials, everybody, all right, the T-Dog, I mean, everybody's got, you know, a negative test when they go on the field. So you kind of created this bubble on the field. You know, is that 1,000%? I don't think so. All right. But that was the model they proposed. And I think that's where we ran into, and I think a lot of teams have run into, you know, is that actually possible? And then I also think too, you know, that's just me speaking on it. I'm not really qualified to speak on the rest of the medical part of it, but could the process work? I think it could. Now, all the other complications that our medical folks understand much better than I do, I think this is why we're in the position that we're in. I don't feel like, or I know that they didn't feel like we could do this right now, and do it the way we need to. Because at the end of the day, what happens is, hey, you guys as coaches and players get yourself ready to go. All right, well, when you're told that, you get yourself ready, and we're going to do it the way that we know how. We're going to lift, we're going to condition, we're going to be smart about that. But once football begins, the distancing and the way you have to prepare, it's really unrealistic. You've got to go practice. You can't keep everybody in groups. You can't spread it out throughout the whole day. You got to have your whole entire team, 100 and some guys out there. You got to prepare, and you got to do it a certain way. You got to run practice. You got to tackle, hit, and block in those things. And, where, at the end of the day, when we got closer to that, and I think everyone felt like, hey, this is actually going to happen. The coaches are ready. Players will be ready. I don't think the medical folks felt like that was possible to do that. And that's why that decision, came down to what it is and postponing right now until we can figure that out.
So I guess that kind of answers my next question, but we've seen Nebraska, even in the last 10 minutes after the Big Ten's canceled, say, well, we still want to play. We're going to try to play some games anyway. Was there any thought or conversation at all about trying to see if you guys could still find some games to play? We see Air Force is getting a chance to maybe play Navy and Army still. Any talk of that?
Yeah, we did not right away. It wasn't just, all right, let's just put a season together. The conversations after the decision were, are we thinking there's an opportunity for us to do anything? And this is a Mountain West decision. We're a part of the Mountain West. And so that didn't go very far. And believe me, like Coach Frost, Nebraska, some of the coaches out there, I applaud those guys. I know that their teams have worked hard. I know they're trying to play. I don't know if that's a possibility. And I'm not going to sit here and say that maybe they don't have something figured out that we don't. So, I appreciate those guys. And if that's their stance and that's where they feel like, they're able to do things this safely and go out there and play, I don't know what their model is. And so the decision was a Mountain West decision. And I asked the question, was there anything that we can do? And you kind of come down to just Boise State, right? What can Boise State do? And we're a part of the Mountain West, and the decision was made. It applies to us. And so it didn't go any further than that. Do we try to go do this? Do we try to go do that? Do I feel that way? Would I like to do that? Sure. But at the end of the day, when you go back through it and you have the conversation of why we did what we did, that ended right there. When we went back through why the decision was made, for the purposes it was made, can we do the things we need to do right now? They didn't feel that way. So, now we need to move forward with the plan that we have. You're on mute, BJ.
There we go. Financially, obviously, as you know, Bryan, football is such a huge percentage of the Boise State athletic department budget. I think Kurt said it was 40 to 50% of the budget would be impacted if there's no 2020 season. Are you worried or scared, or how do you look at what this means for the athletic department as a whole, the fact that you're not going to have football this fall?
Well, I know Kurt's answered those questions, and he's obviously got, a lot better handle on that than I do. Part of it, and I think the education piece too is, there's some financial ramifications and things like that. And there's things that, this obviously affects. But it is what it is at this point. We have to be able to adjust. We're going to have to be creative and find, maybe other ways to help in that area. But that was never, again, I know there's been a lot of conversation about that. And believe me, like any other store, all right, any other company, any other business, there's going to be financial ramifications, all right, when things aren't working the way they normally do. That's just the reality. But the decisions, I read a lot about, it's all money driven and things like that. That's never come into this facility, of, hey, we have to for these reasons. It's been about the players. It's been about the safety. It's been about the health and well-being. We all understand that there's a financial component to this. All right. We do understand that. But at the end of the day, all right, it still comes down to, all right, this model, this amateur model that we have, all right, for college athletics. All right. This is about the experience. This is about the players. Can we play? Because we want to play. All right. Can we do it? Can we do it safely? Is it the right thing to do? Because that's what we do. All right. And the financial part comes along with it. And, right now, obviously at this point, I'm sure I'll be more part of those conversations and what are some of the things that we can all do? Because, we all want to make this work for Boise State, and we all want to try to figure out a way to help, all right, not just football, but our university through this. So when we do get a chance to get back out there, all right, we can go compete, and we can compete at a high level and the championship level. And our guys have a great experience, and we can continue on being a successful program.
Bob Beeler with KTIK, followed by Rick Worthington with KBOI.
You're on mute, Bob.
Coach, when you look at the Mountain West about 5 days ago announcing the 8+2, and then it seemed like a quick about face to say, we're not going to do anything in the fall. What do you think was the biggest thing that changed? Why do you think the conference decided to, instead of coming forward with the schedule, what do you think caused the change in such a quick time?
What do you mean? What are you asking exactly?
I'm asking, was there something that you think caused the conference to make such a quick turn from when the schedule, the 8+2 was announced 5 days ago? You see other conferences actually putting out a schedule, and then all of a sudden now there's 4 conferences if the Pac-12, today announces it. Is there something that you think was the catalyst to make the quick about face?
I do. I think it's the health and well-being of the players and coaches and everybody involved. I really do. I think that's, the scheduling, the preparing, all that can be done, right? I mentioned earlier, all those things that we can figure out, all right, an 8+2, a 9+1, a 10-game schedule. We did discuss those things. I mean, those came up. Should we just make it 10 games and they all count, and then you have a championship and hopefully a bowl game, right? Mm-hmm. Conversations like that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, all right, this is happening. We're just playing around with these different models of, what do we do for the season? But we still hadn't figured out how to prepare properly. And like I said, that's been the message that I've had in those conversations is we can figure out who we play. We have a schedule. All right. We can move games around. We can do it, with in the Mountain West with teams that we weren't going to play. All right. So that was never, what the reality of it is, can we prepare properly? Can we do it safely? All right. And I think that's the final decision on this right here is just, do we know enough to go out there and get into practice and the physicality of the practice and the demands of practice and the demands of fall camp and getting yourself ready for a season? I think some of, every school is going to be having students come on campus. Maybe not all of them, but some are going to have some students on campus. That becomes another factor. And I think the reality was, can we do this? And at the end of the day, they said, no, not right now. And I think, the word postponed, I mean, we know it's pushed back again. We already pushed it back, right? August 7th was the date. All right, let's reschedule and let's start on the 26th. Okay. So it gives us a little bit more time. We thought that was a positive. Give us some more time. Let them figure it out a little bit longer. All right. Let us get the information of how we prepare to play football the right way. How do we practice properly? How do we do it with all of our players out there on one field and all the coaches? And then, the season, they were going to reschedule and remodel that anyway. So, we thought we're going to open up with Georgia Southern. Now we're going to open up with blank. And it really didn't matter. To me, it didn't matter. To me, it was, we'll get that information. We'll get prepared to go play. All right. Our guys will be ready. How do we prepare? And I think that's the question that really started to get hammered on over the last 5 days is I think the Big Ten was practicing. They were in helmets for 2 days, and you normally do that for 2 days. Then you go to shoulder pads. And they kept them in the acclimatization period for a longer period of time. And I think that was we can't stay in helmets and then expect to go play in that first game. And I think that's where the reality set in is either we got to go like we know how to, or we got to make a decision. And I think that's why the decision was made. It was made for, all right, the student athletes and everybody involved out there in practice. Are we doing the right thing? And do we need more time? We just need more time to really get the answers to do this the right way.
Coach, what do you want to see out of a spring season? I mean, what you haven't thought of what it might look like, or what you would like it to look like?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what Jay asked. What amount of time do we need if we were going to get into a spring season and we could just go back to the schedule that we already had set, I mean, I'd like to play the schedule that we had set this year. Play Georgia Southern, right? Play Air Force, play Florida State, play Marshall, get into the rest of our league at that time. I don't know if that's realistic. Would I like to see that? I'd like to play the schedule that we had set. But they're going to have to be able to make adjustments on the back end of the next season, all right, to accommodate that. Because how far do you go into the summer? Do you go into June? And the problem with going into June and not having another cycle of spring recruiting, we've already missed being on the road and seeing and evaluating with our own eyes and ears a lot of these future players. So we would miss that opportunity again. Maybe we get a chance to get out and do a little bit of recruiting during that time, but we would miss most of it. Not the same as spring. And then once you get into June, you're into your camps. All right. So now the 22 class is coming in on campus and you're trying to get guys on unofficial visits. You're trying to recruit that next class while at the same time maybe finishing up a season. So I don't really know how that model fits right now until we did a little bit on the other side of the the next season, the 21 season, to say, all right, or whatever that next season the next 21 season, if we're playing in spring, how far we'd be able to push that back to give some time to do those things. Recruiting, a big part of recruiting for us is evaluation and being able to see these guys. And we haven't had a chance to do that. We can see on film, we can have conversations, we can talk, and we've been doing that quite a bit, but there's got to be some time in there built for recruiting. Because you start getting into two classes now, you haven't really had a chance to evaluate. And I think a lot of coaches understand, that's the lifeblood of our program, right? Recruiting and making sure that we get the right guys in here. So I don't know if they go with a shorter model of games or they would just try to go back and still play the season. Because, ideally to me, then you're not really dealing with all these issues of getting out of a game and all the contracts that go into, just this mess of not playing the games that you were scheduled to play. It seems like from that standpoint, it would clear a lot of things up if we were able to do that.
Rick Worthington, KBOI, and then Will Hall, KTVB.
Hi, Coach. Good to see you.
How
Thanks
you
for
doing?
doing
Good
this.
to see you.
I'm hoping I could get at you for just a little moment. I know that you guys do so much preparation, and there's planning, and there's testing and extra protocols that we've had to, all these hoops that we've had to jump through, and now not being able to compete. Maybe you can talk for football coaches, you and your staff, and maybe other coaches out there, your level of disappointment right now.
We'll take all the protocols out of it. All right. Not having a chance to go out there and compete. That's a big part of, why we do what we do. All right. I think that's a big draw to just being an athlete. You love competition. All right. That motivates you. It drives you. That's why you put in a lot of the hours and the work as a player and as a coach. So you can go out there and really see, what all that work produces, and then just compete. Be able to go against somebody else that's doing the same thing. All right. And who can do it better. And I think that's a lot of the purpose of, why we do what we do. We love competition. We love to compete. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's something that, I want to make sure we're very clear on that we can't lose that. That's part of your edge, as a competitor. And when you're done playing football, you're always going to be a competitor. You may not be able to put the pads on again, but you're going to go compete in something else. All right. And I think that mindset never leaves you when you have that. You're always competitive. So yeah, that's the hardest part. Right now, imagine in spring ball, when you get to practice 13 and 14, you're done, right? You've gone against each other. All right. The spring game, actually, you're looking forward to it because that's the last thing. All right. But you've gone against your teammate this whole entire time. And it's like, you know what? I love this iron sharpens iron idea, but I'm ready to go do this against somebody else. Right now, I'm going to see you in fall camp again. We're going to go at it one more time. And then 10 days before we get into scouts, guys get extremely excited because now it's like, I get to go against the guy I've been watching and studying for the last 3 months, and I'm ready to play and to compete. And the coaches are the same way. we've watched more film than we've ever watched. We've talked to more coaches than we've ever talked to. We've spent more time dissecting plays and going over it, maybe too much. And we even got to a point we need to simplify because we had a lot of really good ideas. The whiteboards are full of ideas and plays. And it's like, all right, we got to actually be able to do this. And so we simplified and, but as a coach, I think the maturity in here, I mean, the guys have been good. They, they're great men. They understand. They're disappointed because they do want to play and compete. And then for our players, that's the focus. All right, now what can we do? Well, we can compete at getting better at the things that we can control right now. And that's just what's going to have to satisfy that competitive edge that we're trying to create for the time being until we get a plan of who we're going to play and win.
Yeah, you want that Georgia Southern game, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's, the message. I mean, even go back to when this whole thing started. We were in our third practice of spring ball, and we were done. We made the decision that, hey, we're done. We cleaned the locker room, and then guys went home, and we didn't see them for a while. And, my message was always September 5th. Hey, don't lose sight of this, guys. September 5th is the day, Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. And, after a while, I mean, I think, we all got a little bit tired of that, but that was the date. Hey, we're starting camp on August 7th. We're going to be ready September 5th. And it's been Georgia Southern. And if we get a chance to compete against them, I'd love to. We've studied them. We watched them. We don't know everything about them, but, we're ready to go play against Georgia Southern. So if that's going back to Bob's question, how it all ends up, and we get to go back through that schedule, good. That's what we want because our guys, we went over it. We've looked at it. This is our opponents. This is what it's going to take. And, now the dates just changed. If the opponent does too, then we deal with that.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we have time for Will Hall, and then we're probably going to have to call it, guys. So, Will from KTVB.
Hars, year in and year out, you rely so heavily on your senior class for leadership. I'm curious, what was your seniors' reaction to the news from yesterday?
Yeah, I think, one, just, hey, we need a minute, just really. Today it was, I think there was a consensus like, hey, we just need a minute. They're not afraid to work. They're not afraid to put in the time. They're not afraid to go run decks. None of that stuff is going to phase these guys. The disappointment and the reality that, all right, this actually happened. I think they made a good decision today. They just need some time. They need a minute. And I think for the seniors, the reality of it is this am I done playing football at Boise State? Because let's be honest. I mean, with the uncertainty right now, that's a fair question. And college football, not everybody gets to play college football. Not everybody certainly gets to play in the NFL. There are no guarantees. And so for guys that have been in this program, when you're a senior, you want that year to be perfect, right? You want to have an undefeated season. You want to go out there and play your best. You want to have a great experience. Maybe you have your degree or you're getting your degree at that time, right? It all just comes together. And then, if you're good enough, you get that chance to go on and play at the next level, right? I think that's always the vision. And, that's what every senior wants. And right now, I think it's really hard to see that for some of the guys. And as much as I say, hey, and try to be positive about it, I don't have those answers for them either. And so it's a fair concern. I don't want any one of these seniors leaving here without that opportunity and experience to finish what they started. Because just imagine that, right? We talk about it's on our process for success. It's the last one. It's number 4, finish. All right. We talk about always finishing, the obsession to get the job done. Their jobs aren't done here. All right. And, and I appreciate that. And so when you're a senior sitting there and you hear that news, I mean, it's like, all right, what does that mean? Because I don't want this to end like this, and I don't believe it will. I really don't. I think college athletics will take care of the players. I really do. I don't know how. For every program, it might be a little bit different. Some might do it better than others, but at the end of the day, that opportunity to finish what you started, I think is really important for these seniors. And, I'm going to stay optimistic that that's how it all ends up, that we get a chance. It's done safely. We get the answers that we need, and these guys finish. And, and I'm hoping too, they have the type of season they all envision, because I want to be part of that as well. So I think that's a real concern. I think it's fair. And we're obviously sensitive to that.
Thanks, Hars.
All right, guys. I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks, Hars. If anybody
thank you,
hasn't,
guys. Appreciate it.
if anybody needs the file and you haven't let me know, just shoot me a text. So, all right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Joe.
Have a great day. Go Broncos. See ya. Be safe.
You too.
Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.